Welcome to the Princeton Podcast, where we talk about upcoming events, news, and local businesses. This is Princeton. Play here, stay here.
Before we get started today, just a reminder to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're also recording on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe at This Is Princeton MN.
Bring your ass to Minnesota.
Yeah,
What is
what
that?
it says?
I've seen that around.
Bring your ass.
That meme?
Yeah.
That's from the Timberwolves, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anthony
Is it?
Edwards was being
Yeah.
interviewed by Charles Barkley afterwards.
Where do we eat?
Well, yeah, and he was like, I haven't been there in like 20 years. And then Anthony Edwards just interrupted and he's like, bring your ass.
What?
Yeah.
Go ask in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, this morning even, they're already making sweatshirts and T-shirts
Yeah.
about. I'm like,
If
really?
you go
What
to
is it?
Explore Minnesota,
Yeah.
their main website, it's on the front page that says "Bring
No
your ass to
kidding?
Minnesota."
Explore Minnesota also purchased so now if you type in bring your ass, it goes to the Explore Minnesota website.
You gotta be kidding
No,
me.
they bought it.
Governor Walz is posting like crazy
Uh-huh.
about it, and
Yeah.
Big hype. Huh?
Bring your
Yeah.
ass.
Wow.
That's
I
great
suppose, like,
marketing for
yeah.
Minnesota by bring your ass.
That's all that is just attention
Sure.
hacking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep,
like just there's
exactly.
a wave of something, let's jump on that quick.
Yep.
We can
Bring your
use that
ass.
exposure.
Now the world knows.
Yeah.
They've been waiting for it. They're like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
20
I know.
years.
Yeah. Finally.
Go Wolves.
Yes. I can't wait tonight.
we could do
fun.
that and for festival. Bring your ass to Princeton.
Yeah, exactly.
Hashtag.
Yeah, had some hot
Yes.
dish.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys,
Okay.
welcome to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have a special guest, but before we get started, I wanted to announce that today's podcast is actually brought to you by Princeton Area Chamber of Commerce. And Mary, I'll have you take it away from here.
We are excited to welcome our guest today, who we think has a really interesting job, and we can't wait to hear all about it. Hopefully, some good stories. Please welcome James from Williams Dingmann Family Funeral Home.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah. Thanks for
Okay.
being here.
Good to be with you.
Yeah. This is great. Well, the first question I wanted to ask you is about your specific job and what you do at Williams Dingmann.
Well, thanks for that, Kim. My official title is Community Outreach Coordinator. So that means that I make a lot of connections and build relationships and educate all of the communities about our funeral home business, about celebrations of life, and about end of life. So that's kind of my official title. I'm also a chaplain. So I did spend 12 and a half years in hospice care as a chaplain working in spiritual care. So I'm the resident chaplain within our business.
Okay.
And so I celebrate, or am the celebrant for a lot of services of folks that come to our funeral home.
Wow. Okay. It's funny that you talked about hospice over the weekend. Our family was together and we were talking about how great it would be to have a hospice house
It is.
in this area because, to help the families.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, I know, the patient obviously will, receive help, but to help the families get through that
It's a wonderful
time period.
program. Wonderful program.
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of what you do, after and with families.
Yep. Grief and bereavement. We're always available to support families after the loss of a loved one and work with families from beginning to end and further as needed to celebrate their loved one's life. And that's kind of the term I like to use. We're really celebrating lives is what we're doing.
Exactly. And sometimes, actually, I was recently at a funeral where we were talking about someone else's funeral, a potential funeral someday, and his wife had said he doesn't want a funeral.
Oh.
And I said, well, isn't it more about the people left behind or what do you say about that?
Well, that's a good question, Kim. And I've heard people say that, and part of that is just out of modesty. Part of it is out of people thinking that no one will come, and of course we're always surprised, right? The funeral it's a beautiful ritual, is what we do, and we need to do that. It's a celebration of a life. We've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, so we encourage it for those reasons. Of the gathering is so important, the ritual around that, sharing a meal, telling stories, tears and laughter. It's all normal and appropriate and helpful for healing. So we encourage that with families.
Yeah, definitely. So what happens when you have a family come in that might not be able to, they just say, we don't have the funds to, funeral's expensive.
It is, and it can be. There's lots of options today, so we like people to come in and visit with us, visit with our directors to go through all the options. And one of the things we recommend is pre-planning And then prepaying. So people can use insurance policies to help pay for that. And we write policies at our funeral home after we determine what the folks want to do and how much it costs. And then they will prepay, and we put it into a small interest-bearing account, and the money's there when it's needed at the time.
So is that, I remember that from the tour that we did a while ago with Morning Networking, and I didn't realize that's, for some, that might be the only way to save the money, because if they're in a living situation where they might be they can't really put it into a savings account per se and say this is set aside for my funeral. It really needs to be through an insurance policy.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the funeral expenses are covered and protected from those assets. So those funds are set aside and protected from assets. So that's why we do that. And a lot of families do that today. And then it's all taken care of. It takes that financial burden and all of those decisions away from the family at the time so they can be present and let people love them and celebrate that life, not having to worry about all those other details.
And how early in life do you
I was
recommend?
just going to say that.
I get the question, what's the one? Never too early.
I know, but
it can be too late.
Right.
So I just, it's all up to the families. I always say, just start the conversation. Here's what I believe in my spirituality. We all want to talk about the end of life. We all want to talk about death, but someone has to start the conversation. And I just do it every day. So it's real normal for me. And once we start it, you can just feel this sense of, oh, that's not so bad, is it?
Yeah.
So we encourage that, to have folks just start that. Things can be changed all the time, obviously. But we just recommend come in and start the conversation so you can see the options and make this be a celebration.
And you would just keep basically a file.
Start a file on you, Kim.
Yep.
That's what
it
we
feels
say.
like a jinx.
I know.
It's not a jinx.
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. It does. It feels like a jinx.
I already have my songs picked out.
Good for you, Mary. Yep.
Well, you better put it in a file.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea.
That's what we say. Write it.
Spotify playlist.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
In fact, write it down. That's
Yeah.
we just say to people, write it down. The other piece that the advantage of pre-planning is you get to express your wishes. Like Mary says, she already has her songs picked out. You can decide what you want for lunch. All these things are wonderful because you're still here.
Right.
We still have families come in, adult children, and both parents are deceased, and they come in and they say, we don't know what to do. They never said what they wanted. That's why we're there to help.
Right.
But then they say, well, then how do we pay for it?
Right.
So if you do it all ahead of time, you can work all that out for years with family and make a plan and celebrate life, and then you get about the business of living.
Right.
Then we start really living when you go, okay, that's done. It's not hanging out there.
And it's not a jinx.
It's not a jinx.
And what about jokes? Like, would you follow through with that? Like, if I put into my file that somebody is to take my cell phone, and then when the coffin shuts, to send a message to everybody that says it's dark in here.
Yeah, let me out.
Would you follow through?
Let me out, of course.
Right in the middle of the funeral.
Yes. Yes, we
Oh my gosh.
guys.
Mary.
It's happened already, Mary. You're not the first.
Oh, I know.
It's
Seriously.
happened all the time. There was a cemetery
dark in
service.
here?
Yeah. And the voice came on and said, yeah, let me out, let me out. I changed my mind. You know, all those kind of things. People are just rolling. Just rolling.
No way.
Yeah. We accommodate what families want. Here's the piece we're getting to.
No.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah. Here's the piece we're getting to. Humor is really important, and it's really necessary. It's not disrespectful, but we need to laugh about the end of life, and we need to cry about it, and it's all normal and natural.
And I do think that probably people feel I shouldn't be laughing. You know what I mean? It feels like you said it's not disrespectful.
Well, right, and that's kind of, traditionally what we're brought up with is to be reverent. And we can be respectful and reverent, but joyful at the same time. But we don't know how to do that very well.
That's
and
right.
Kind of my role is to just encourage that, just like we're talking about, just like we're doing.
Yeah.
It's all normal.
Yeah.
I do a lot of services. I lead a lot of services or celebration of life, and we play a lot of different music. One of the recent services I did, she was such a fan of disco music. Remember the Bee Gees and all that? So she wanted one of her songs.
Notice how he looked at you and said that?
Yeah, well, does anybody else remember the Bee Gees?
Nope.
That is a musical group, Zach. No.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
But she loved it, so we played it, and people got up and danced.
Oh, that's cool.
Because it was so cool, and the only thing missing was the mirror ball and the lights.
That's right.
Right at our chapel. So celebrations of life.
Yeah.
And you probably know Father Kevin Anderson
Sure I
from
do.
Christ
We
Our
go
Light.
way back.
Yes. Oh, do you?
Yeah, we're friends.
Okay, yeah. He, I remember when my grandma passed and we went in to talk with him about the service and kind of what we wanted. He asked specifically, what is her favorite drink? What's her favorite cocktail? And so we told him, and he said, I like to, while I'm writing the homily, I like to drink their drink because I feel like they're talking to me. I'm like having a conversation with them and they're writing it for me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really neat.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
The whole idea is to be involved and actually, frankly, to feel the emotions about the celebration of life. That's what it's all about.
Yep. That's
why we
really
do it.
neat. So then just some questions about, I guess, probably the curious questions people have about death and dying and funeral homes. And so one of the questions that came up when we were doing the tour was about cremation and if it's legal to spread ashes.
We get the question a lot, and thanks, Kim. Cremation is kind of our trend these days for a variety of reasons. And yes, you can spread the ashes. We always say, please do it respectfully. Please ask for permission if you're going to do something that feels it's not your own property. There's a few places that it is illegal: national monuments, national parks. You can't.
Okay.
You can't be just doing that. But if you put it in your flower garden, you're going to have the most beautiful roses you'll ever see.
Really?
And people do that. I mean, it's appropriate because in Minnesota, the final disposition is cremation, meaning after that, people can really choose to do whatever they like. And again, we just say, please be reverent and respectful about that. And
Now, is that something you'd have to disclose if you sell your house?
oh, God, I've never had the question, Mary.
Oh, I have a bunch of questions here.
I would consult a realtor about that.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, that's a realtor question.
It is a realtor question. I mean, again, in your garden, in your backyard,
No, I can't
It's
imagine.
not
You'd
a
have to
big issue.
disclose. I mean, if you buried a body,
Yeah.
Right.
which that's
Well-
not legal to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Next
Yeah.
to our dog is actually Grandpa.
Well-
Exactly. That's not legal in Minnesota, right?
What's
But
that?
You can't just bury a body.
Like a dog.
Well, no, a human.
No.
Right.
That needs to be in a
That's what I'm saying.
specific, yeah.
Yes. You need,
Okay.
yeah, whereas the medical examiners are involved and there's death certificates filed and so
Yeah.
forth. You just can't decide to do that anywhere.
Like back in the day.
No.
Like
Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Mama Gump.
But what about ashes? If you bury ashes, can they be buried wherever?
I think
Like
so.
if you're going to bury an urn, let's
Yeah,
say.
I'm not really sure about it. This depends on a lot of different things. If
Yeah.
it's private land, those are deeper questions. We'd have to look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Again, a disclosure. I would
Yeah.
not want to buy a house that there was,
An urn buried?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get Todd back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, to ask about.
Got a
Yeah.
couple questions. You'd be like, why are you asking these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So we're just wondering kind of about some interesting stories you've had happen, because one of the things, again, at the networking that was brought up is they were saying that sometimes they get urns from thrift stores.
Oh, well, and not
Oh.
only that, but a lot of times families will ask us if they can provide the urn, and of course they can, because oftentimes Uncle Bob was a carpenter and he created this beautiful urn. So those containers can be anything people want.
Right.
You know, and often they're made by family, which are beautiful. A few years ago, officiated a service over on Mille Lacs, and he was an avid fisherman, of course, lived on Mille Lacs. His ashes were in his tackle box.
Oh, cool.
And it was the most beautiful little display, and so that's appropriate.
Yeah. Our grandpa had, it was a ammo box.
Ammo boxes.
Yeah.
I just had one of my educational seminars about pre-planning. A gentleman said, "I'm going to be cremated, and my ashes are going to be in a Linus of the Snoopy
Linus.
figurine
Yeah.
of Linus." So we can accommodate.
Right.
So what would you do, or what did they do, Kim? Did they finish that story? So somebody, it must have been like an estate sale. It's all
I'm
I
not
can think
sure.
of, because why on earth would you donate?
So I suppose
your
you're saying that it
urn?
could be, like you see a tackle box,
And then
it's they donate it and
Yeah.
don't really, is that kind of what happens?
And
Yeah.
then somebody buys it at the thrift store.
Or the thrift store, then they start going through it to
Yeah.
clean it or whatever, and they find ashes.
Well, ashes in it.
Yes, because,
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
the former director at Williams Dingmann here, they said that that's happened where
Oh.
thrift stores will call and say,
Oh, they forgot about it. In other words, this container, they forgot the ashes are in there, sold it with the estate,
Yes.
it ends up at the thrift store.
Yes, and the thrift store calls, and then, And then one of our chamber members said, I better go talk to my girls. I swear, if you ever donate me to a thrift store. Yeah, so I'm sure there's some interesting things that happen.
Oh, sure. Lots of those questions, a lot of myth. There's one of the things I like to say as I do my seminars, I'm kind of deconstructing Hollywood. Hollywood is taken, and no offense to Hollywood, it's great entertainment, but there's reality.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken this beautiful word of mystery and really made some pretty spooky, gory movies about it.
Right.
And that's not reality. The reality is, of all the people that I've been with in my hospice experience and all of my experience, no one's ever afraid of dying.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I've never had it.
I mean, it's comforting.
Well, most people, especially in their senior years, now we're talking, well into their senior years, their biggest concern is my family going to be okay? They're ready. They're ready to go. The oldest person I worked with in hospice was 107. 100.
What?
She went to high school on horseback.
Wow.
It was beautiful. And she was right there.
Yeah.
I'd say, Mildred, how you doing today? Oh, I'm so ready to be done.
Yeah.
I'm so ready to go. It's always peaceful, always wonderful.
Our grandma has said that before. She's 95. And she has just said, sometimes it gets hard, to live, to keep going at this age. I'm just achy and,
the body
I'm
wears
tired.
out.
And yeah.
This is a vessel. The body gets tired and wears out.
Yep.
How much more can we do past 95?
Right.
I've lived life. I've done it all.
Yep.
So.
Exactly. Yep. So let's see, what other questions? Well, I have a question for you about you personally. What made you go into this line of work?
Oh, man. The journey is full of invitations.
Oh, I love that.
People in my life have said a lot of things. I can remember back in high school, people coming up and saying, "You're a good listener." So you pay attention to that. Now we hear, fast forward and you look back on all these invitations. I have a graduate degree in ministry and theology. So one of my instructors said at a break one time, "Something's going on with you." And I said, "I know. What do I do?" And then she said, "Well, here's some suggestions." And I kind of just followed that path. And it led me to hospice. I had a colleague that said, there's a chaplain position open in hospice. I think you'd be really good at that. And it worked out, 12 and a half years. And then I thought, it's time to get off the road. I've got a little fuel in the tank yet, but I don't want to retire. And I've worked with Williams Dingmann for years, officiating these celebrations of life, and known them very well. So one day I just stopped in and saw Doug and said, "Doug, I've got an idea."
Yeah.
He said, "Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it." So 7 months I've been with the funeral home.
Okay. And you guys have locations in Big Lake?
9 Central
Oh,
Minnesota.
9.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize
So
that.
beautiful downtown Princeton, Big Lake, Becker, Clear Lake, Sauk Rapids, St. Cloud, Avon, Eden Valley.
Wow.
And you go to all of them?
Those are all chapels, Mary, so we go there as needed as families want to use those chapels for their services.
Okay.
So it just depends on where they want to go and what they want to do, and our team is wearing many hats, and we go all over,
Wow.
wherever we're needed.
And here in Princeton, what I love about what you guys do at Williams Dingmann is that you kind of honor the building you're in, as it used to be the Armory.
Yep.
And you do veterans, and do you do Memorial Day or
I don't know.
No, Veterans Day.
Veterans Day for sure. We
Yep.
invite them in for lunch and have a little ceremony.
Yes, and you have the wall of,
Yep.
I can't remember if it has a name, but it has military people who have passed that are on the
that's
wall.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat.
We honor all our veterans in our services who are eligible, and of course, then they get military honors and the flag, and it's all beautiful. We're just delighted to honor veterans in that way.
So what is the process when someone passes, and then what happens? They call you, and now it starts.
Yeah, usually what happens, always depending on where they are, if they're in their own home or a residential community or the hospital, whatever, family is notified first, so the family can go there and be there if they're not there already. And then the staff will say to the family, "Have you had enough time? Are you ready for us to call the funeral home?"
Okay.
That's kind of how the process works, because families can spend, some have been through the process and they say, we're just fine, we've had enough time. Others want more time, more family to gather, an hour or two is appropriate, whatever family wants. Then the staff will ask, and then the staff, either whether it's hospice nurses or the staff at the communities or even the family, will just call us, and then we come out and take the body into our care, and it comes back to the funeral home. And then we contact the family and arrange a time to come in and discuss arrangements.
Okay.
What would you like to do? Dates, all those things. We provide everything from memorial folders and cards and thank you cards and the obituary on our website and the rental of our chapel. And we have dining services. We cater in meals, do the cemetery service, have them pick out vaults and caskets and urns and flowers.
And you also are very helpful if you do kind of a little of both. So you maybe have the visitation at Williams Dingmann
Yes.
and the funeral at a church.
Correct.
And then your staff takes everything
All that.
over, the flowers, the boards, and
Photos,
Yep.
we make DVDs of people with photos. In our chapels, we have a lot of monitors up, so we play photos or videos at our services in our chapels during visitations or during that celebration of life. We can live stream, one of the benefits of technology and the benefit out of COVID. Live streaming, so people around the world, it's literally around the world, so family who can't travel can watch that.
that was one of my questions. I was wondering if you do that at Williams Dingmann.
All the time.
Oh, you do?
All the
Okay.
time, yeah, upon family request.
Request.
Okay.
Yep.
That was actually my second question.
If you just do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I had actually gotten a few. I've filmed a couple weddings, and that was an industry that I like, and because it just being a part of someone's day like that's another great day. But I had got asked if I could come and film the ceremony of celebration of life, and I was like, is that a thing?
It is a thing.
And I was
right.
like, oh my. But yeah, the speeches, the family,
Right.
The memories and
the
stuff.
family that's there, and to think about all the family too that comes back together again.
Right.
When someone passes,
Mhm.
it's just
Capturing that.
Weddings and funerals.
Yep.
I mean, it does seem, I think, you just don't think about it, I feel like, at the time. But, I was at a recent funeral I was at the cemetery. My husband started to take photos of, of the flag being given to the son and all that. And the family was so grateful for that. And then they wished that they had recorded speeches, and
Exactly.
thought to do that
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they
So-
just want to remember that.
Well, it's a great keepsake, isn't it?
Yeah.
To show the grandkids and the great grandkids, and people like Zach and other production houses families will do that, or as you know, they're doing it themselves and just having the phones and capturing video clips of things.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because
And-
you don't think of that. You wouldn't
You
think
don't.
of, hey, can you take pictures?
You don't. I mean, you certainly think of it as at a wedding.
Yeah.
And to your point, Mary, then that's why we'll take care of that for you, so then you can be in the present moment and not have to worry about capturing and taking
Right.
photos.
Yeah.
We can provide that. We have resources available and bring people in to record, do videos, do photos.
yeah.
Well, there you go, Zach.
Yeah,
Add
if
it
you
to
need a
your
hand.
add it to your plate.
You're on the list.
Yeah.
Add you to the list. Zach.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be.
That's one thing I would want though is I think the speeches of just the audio of
Yes.
someone
Because then you're collecting those memories. Because
Yeah.
it's usually people sharing memories and
Yep.
or the eulogy and
All that.
yeah.
When I lead those celebrations of life, I always create that sharing time and let people encourage them. And usually there's kind of a spokesperson for the family, the eulogy. Others just come up when they're so moved, and then we encourage that. Short stories, they read poems, they read prayers, they read letters, they speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Tears and laughter, it's all appropriate.
It's kind of, I always know there's that awkward silence when you want it. Because I think people want to, they're afraid. How do you encourage people to?
When I work with families to sit down and plan that service, I always say, would you like to say anything? I don't think I can do it.
Right.
And I say, you know what? I'll be up there with you and just try it. And sometimes they say, if I can't get through it, will you read it? Of course. So I've done that. But we just make it normal and relaxed, and then people feel good about it. This is not a performance. This is not no right way to do it perfectly. You're sharing from your heart
Right.
about something that people never regret. So I encourage it and be helpful and be supportive, and then we let it happen organically.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, nothing. I'm like, in my head, I'm
I
already
know.
like thinking of how I'd put together a video.
I know. I mean, you could put together some really cool videos.
Right.
Yeah.
And I almost got choked up thinking about how I would like make one, because just
Right.
because how I start out wedding films, the speeches and people and like,
Yeah.
but this would be like another level of emotion coming through.
Because you could put in, the photos of the person who's passed and mix it all together with the
Yeah.
service, which would be really neat.
Lots of hugs and
All that.
And it's the same, weddings, everybody comes together for weddings, you get big family photos, and, why wouldn't you do it at the funeral?
Yeah, yeah. And then creating that DVD, which we do with about 30 to 35 photos is about the sweet spot. And then we give them DVDs as a memento from all their
ooh,
photos.
we're gonna have to have Allie cut hers down.
Yeah.
One of her, well, Kim and I are sisters, and there's two more of us. There are four of us,
Okay.
and one of Allie, she has a file that she sends to her best friend of all selfies, and there's got to be like over 100.
Who did she send them to?
Christy,
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
uh-huh.
Oh.
And she updates it every
Well,
year.
she
Like
should-
add this. So her
What if Christy
her video
goes
would
for her?
then
she
I
needs
have
to get
it
a file
too.
going.
Yeah. Christy, I'm sure she has a backup now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her video will be all selfies.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think this is a good time to take a break,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
we'll get back.
If you're a Princeton business that wants to increase their social engagement, influence purchase decisions, and build a stronger brand presence in Princeton, we want to work with you. We are offering 10 to 15 dedicated reels for your business and or a whiteboard animation, a featured spot on the Princeton podcast, your logo featured on our website, social collaborations on our social channels with over 6,000 followers, an email blast to over 400 active chamber members. Last but not least, we are guaranteeing over 15,000 views for your business and your brand and your product. And due to this claim, we're only offering this for 3 businesses. So if this is something that you want to do, please contact Kim at the Chamber to learn more information. Hope to work with you soon.
We are back. All right, I have a question. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or if you've heard stories of it, but have you ever gone to a house where you've been called and the person is actually not dead?
I have not had that experience, Mary, but I would imagine since we've been around for 150 years, there's been those experiences. So I can't really speak to that personally, but I'm sure there's some other interesting stories that
Well, even in
Like,
hospice,
just kidding.
it's probably, it's maybe going to happen. You do hear about that where
Sure.
people are, close, and then you think you're,
I can speak that in my hospice experience
Yeah.
because it's true, because what happens at the end of life naturally is breathing slows way down, so there's a lot of time in between breaths. And I've been there when we all thought, oh, is she gone? Did Dad go to the other side? And then he takes a breath.
Uh-huh.
So anything is kind of possible.
Yeah.
But what really happens at the end of life is a nurse takes those vital signs.
Right.
So we really know for sure then. And that's when we're called. I don't think a funeral home is going to go until the actual death has occurred.
And so, speaking of that, if you're not in hospice, it's not an expected death like hospice is, what happens?
What typically happens is obviously some family member or someone's going to call the authorities, and that's when the authorities come. The police or the sheriff or law enforcement need to come to an unexpected death to see what it was.
Do people know that, or do you guys ever get first calls? For me, I feel like that would be, I don't know.
I know, like, who do you call?
Yeah.
Well, the family can call us, and then they'll either call the authorities as well, or if we get there and say we need to call the authorities. It all depends on the
Okay.
situation.
So they do have to
Yeah.
come in and
Yeah.
basically verify,
Yep.
that-
See what the circumstances are.
make sure
Yep.
it's nothing that's, of question or.
Well, sure. There's all kinds of reasons of death that's not natural. I mean,
Right.
there's accidents that happen and so forth. Those are all investigated and need to be looked into. Sure.
Okay. And then you are brought in by the authorities?
Or
to
the family. Or the family.
Okay.
Or one or the other, or both. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Once the
Okay.
death has occurred, then often someone will say, do you have a funeral home? Yes, we've prearranged. We've talked to Williams and Dingmann, so let's call them. Sometimes not. It just depends on, the situation, and people will call us anyway because they
Okay.
know of us. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned your that you are not a funeral director.
Correct.
But where can a person, what's the best place to go, or what is the requirement, and
Thanks,
how do you get
Kim.
into that?
Yeah, we're always looking for funeral directors. One of the reasons I want to say this is because one of our longest serving funeral directors just retired after 42 years. So that's a testament to the business and that kind of work that he did. So we're always looking for directors. The state of Minnesota is one of the few states left that require a bachelor's degree in mortuary science.
Okay.
So the University of Minnesota is one of the best in the Midwest, where lots of people go and graduate from there and get a bachelor's in that degree. There's others, obviously, around the country and so forth, but that's one that most of our directors end up going
Wow,
to.
okay.
So a bachelor's degree, and you said mortuary science,
Correct.
and then you can become a director?
Funeral director after a period of well, there's internships with that and
Okay.
practicums, like a lot of degrees, and then you get a license. You have to be licensed by the state of Minnesota,
Okay.
and then you come to work for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some, I don't know, I feel like it would have been like a graduate degree or
I would have thought so
a
too.
higher degree.
Uh-huh.
No, a lot of anatomy and physiology.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah.
so people say, who are interested in health sciences or the caring environment or, kind of spirituality, or those things are kind of called to that. I mean, not every, remember in junior high, I used to go around, what do you want to be when you grow up? I've never heard anybody say funeral director.
Yeah.
I haven't either.
Well, and we talked on the break here with James that, a mortician is the same as a funeral director.
And that kind of going away
Some
from
of
that.
the language. Yeah, we're changing some of the language.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Right. So like back in our day, it would be, I
Yeah.
want to be a mortician.
Well, in the old days, back to when we started in 1873, undertaker.
Oh.
Remember? Do you know where that term came from?
No.
People would say, well, who's going to undertake this job?
Oh.
And that's how
And
it,
you became an undertaker.
yeah, and it just evolved, and now here we are, all these years later.
Undertaker. It sounds like a WWE thing.
Yeah, an undertaker. Or it made me think of a grave digger.
Yeah.
It used to be where now that's not really,
We still have them.
you still have them, but they're not really, that's not usually their soul. It's a city or,
Can you imagine that
Yeah.
on your Instagram profile?
Yeah.
Grave digger.
uh-huh. But there are some, I believe. Yeah, that is
Every
their
cemetery
job.
has one.
Yeah.
That's their job.
That's their job.
Gravedigger. There's songs about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
there's
I'm
also
sure.
trucks.
Yep.
Gravediggers.
Yeah, so we want to make sure to shout out to all those kids out there trying to figure out what you want to do, that maybe you'd be called to this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they can come in and tour and
Yeah.
do a shadow experience. Like it's great for young people to shadow that profession, see if they want to be more interested, and we'd be glad to do that.
Yeah,
anytime.
it is very interesting. The tour that we went on was really interesting. Things you don't think about, the different things you offer, little trinkets that you have if you want to, maybe a necklace or a charm or, with a little bit of the ashes in. There's many
Jewelry.
options.
Yes,
Yeah.
we fingerprint.
Fingerprint.
Oh,
the
yeah,
rings and
fingerprints. I
stuff.
love that.
Yep. Well, we have all that
That's so
available.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's why we have people come in, so they can look at all those options and details and take their time and not have to do last minute. Say,
Right.
"Oh, we don't know what to do. This way, it's all just a beautiful process.
Right.
And
If someone was going to start that process, what questions would you recommend to start asking?
one of the best places, Zach, is our website. We have a section called pre-planning, and clicking right on that, there's a form that people can fill out online. Okay, guys, believe it or not, like Amazon, right? You can plan your own funeral online. And we kind of say start with that to get familiar, and just call us, make an appointment, and then come in, and then our director will walk them through the whole process of these are the options, and what would you like to do, and who's the family, and who wants to be involved. It just starts that conversation, and
So everybody should do that.
Everybody should.
they
Can
really
you
should.
can you update it online as
Change-
well?
The changes would be made in person or
Oh.
on the phone, Mary, but
You'd get to know me very well then.
yes.
This is my new song.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of it. You can change it anytime. Just start the conversation, as I say,
Right.
and then come in and say, "Oh, this is my new song," or I don't want to do. I want hot dish for lunch
Yeah.
instead of burgers or something. I mean,
Right.
You can specify all that.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to start planning.
Yeah, I mean,
Me too.
honestly,
Hey, I'll give you my card.
yes, definitely. Everyone should do this.
I want to go
It's
back.
important to do it.
I want to go back to the director job, like the job description. So, because when you were saying mortician, like when I think of that word, I think of somebody working with the body and like down in the dungeon.
I
And
can picture like the stoves and
yes, and like you're pulling them out of the refrigerator. And
Well,
do you guys have refrigerators?
yes. Some of those terms are correct.
Some of those terms are correct.
See, language is so important, you guys. So we've gone from undertaker to funeral director, hearse to funeral coach.
Oh, I didn't know that
Well,
one.
just you can, some people still call it that. I mean,
Funeral coach. I like it.
yeah.
because we do have today the motorized funeral coach, the Cadillac.
Yeah.
And then we still have the original horse-drawn funeral coach from 1873.
Where?
It's stored over by our Sauk Rapids location.
Really?
Wait, what does that consist of?
It's a horse-drawn funeral coach.
Really?
In 1873, we had photos. I'll send you one.
Yeah, so that would be great. We can put it in the podcast.
Yeah. People still request
like
it
the
once in a
Queen.
while. It is. You can go right down Rum River Drive
Yeah.
with horse and carriage.
White horses.
They're black. Everything is black.
shoot.
Yeah, it's
Black
changed.
death.
That's something else that's changed. Remember, it used to be all black. Now it's kind of all white and celebratory instead
Yeah.
of black and morbid. So back to your question, Mary. I digress. I apologize. Yes, funeral directors work with the bodies. They work with bodies. They are called out 24 hours a day. We're always available for those reasons. We don't know when people die. So they have to go out and take the body into their care, into our care. And it's called a preparation room. And they work with the body to clean them and take care of them and make them presentable, and embalming if that's required or asked for. So all those processes take place. And we do have refrigeration because it takes time for families to gather and have this service because people travel. So it's come a long way in 150
You know, I want to
years.
mention too that you could, if you so choose, you could choose to have an open casket with a viewing
Correct,
and also be cremated.
correct. You can have a visitation, and people do, or it used to be called a viewing or review. All these
Yeah,
terms are synonymous, but a visitation and a gathering. So people can come, open casket, and visit for 4 to 6 hours, or usually evening before at our chapel. And then the next morning, usually an hour before at the church where the service will be, or at our chapel. And people gather and they can do all of those story sharing and reminiscing and see photos and videos, and all that happens. And then we can close the casket, and then they choose to be cremated. So then they may or may not have a cemetery service at a later date.
Right.
The beauty of cremation is then you can wait as long as you want. to do
Right.
that.
Whether it's in the winter in Minnesota, you might want to wait. Yeah.
All that.
Yeah, I thought that was a good option, for people too, to know that you can do both.
You can do both.
That's gonna be my plan.
Yeah.
You know what else I'm gonna put in my plan? That I want to be the Grand Marshal, the Rum River Parade.
After you pass?
Yeah, with the horses. Yeah.
I suppose James is like, well, Kim,
the
if it's in your
parade?
plan,
Yeah.
we have to carry it out.
We can do
I want to
that.
lead the parade. I want horses to carry
We
me
can do
down
that.
Rum River Drive.
Yeah. Write it down.
Yeah, write it down.
I like the text. I like
Yeah, the text
pretty
is funny. Yeah, I never heard of that. That's pretty good.
There's another meme that I had seen the other day. I must have been talking about this because phones pick up everything.
Yeah.
But we were talking about how weddings and funerals are so similar. And I saw something online about how at a funeral, somebody had suggested that they take the flowers that are on top and throw it like you throw the bouquet at a wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Who's next?
Next.
all these little jinxes. Huh?
Yeah, see, that's a jinx.
Start planning. Here's my card.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Here's my card.
Oh, that's funny.
Again, you guys, the humor is appropriate.
Yeah.
It's not disrespectful. We need to joke about it. One of my presentations or seminars I do, I have a slide on euphemisms. So euphemisms is when we take something that's awkward or uncomfortable, like the end of life, and instead of saying, Dad's dead, we say Dad has passed on or passed away, or he's going to die. There's a whole list. In fact, I need to say Patch Adams. You got to watch Patch Adams.
it's so
Yes,
good.
that's a good one.
That's where I got it from. And he's in the angel scene with the man dying, and Robin Williams is in the angel outfit, and he starts using euphemisms, kick the bucket and buy the farm and cash in your chips and take the cab. And that's all good humor.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah,
a
it's been a long
great
time.
movie.
Yeah,
It is. And
It's
it'll
really
just,
good.
though there is something that you'll have tears and laughter because it's so beautiful how they've taken life and
Yes.
life and made it such. Make it real. And
Yep.
all the fear goes away.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We, at our grandpa's funeral, one of our grandpa's funeral, he was a jokester. And everything that came out of his mouth was sarcasm or,
He had a nickname for everyone.
yes,
Yeah.
everybody in town,
Sure.
there was a nickname. And he just was a jokester. And at his funeral, because he was cremated, and so he was being carried out
In the ammo box.
in the ammo box. So it's tin or aluminum
Sure.
or whatever.
Sure.
And we were up in a church that had stairs that you had to go down to get out.
The Methodist Church.
Okay.
Yeah, and the funeral director or somebody from the funeral home tripped.
Down the stairs.
And the whole family was still up in the church, and we're bawling. And all we can hear is ting, 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 ting. It went rolling.
The ammo
Well, and
box?
he
Yeah.
fell on top of it too. Because
Yes,
we
he
even
actually
said
got
he
hurt.
maybe like
Oh, no.
we were afraid like he broke a rib or something.
Oh.
And he just was
He felt so
horrified
bad.
by it. And we all were like, that was the perfect way
Yes,
to end
the
Grandpa's
perfect ending.
funeral.
We're like, he probably tripped him.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So we went from bawling to and we're all looking
we
at
could
each
just see
other,
Grandpa in his
like,
shoulders. You know.
Grandpa just went rolling.
You normalize it.
Yeah.
You make normal out of something like that, and all is right with the world.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep. It was great.
Cool.
It was. It really
Yeah,
was. And
yeah.
the poor guy felt so bad.
I
And we're just
know.
like, we couldn't have.
And we were concerned
Plan
about
that.
him being hurt.
Yeah.
Because,
I
landing
think he
on
was.
top
I
of
feel
an
like
ammo
the
box.
next week we saw him, he was like in a sling.
Oh.
Yeah,
my
or
gosh.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's too bad.
It's our grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and coming over here and taking time out of your busy day to be with us.
Thank
This was
you.
really interesting
Yeah.
and informative and
So
Thanks.
informative.
yep.
And thanks to all of you. There's more. We can do round 2 sometime.
Yes,
There's
definitely.
Lots more to talk about.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Very good. Well, until next time, this is Kim, Zach, and Mary signing off. This is Princeton. Stay here, play here.
And plan to die here.
Yeah. Stay here, play here, die here.
Love it.
We have a great funeral home.
You're going to love it.
Podcast produced by Kitzman Creations, music by Charles Moe. Be sure to subscribe to the Princeton Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, to view our awkward moments, check us out on our YouTube channel and visit us at www.thisisprincetonmn.co.